Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And in this episode, we're going to be talking NFL, some various things around the league, including the state of the Packers-Bears rivalry, some free agents that have recently become available where they may end up, and some drama going on around the NFL. So, Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's run. It's always fun to talk football.
It's always fun to talk football. So we're going to start with the Packers-Bears rivalry. Some sparks have flown. Justin Jones just fired a cannonball
Yeah,
into the Packers
who?
fan base. Yeah, well,
I'm
first
a Bears fan, and who?
that was my first point as who is this bum? Nobody, first of all.
He needs to stay in his lane.
Well, regardless, he called Packers fans to use nicer language because this is a clean episode. I don't want to make this an explicit episode quite yet. Crappy, obnoxious, and half of us don't know football. I think it's a little more than half of us that don't know who he is. And
Dude,
then
I didn't even know who he was. When you first brought this up to me, I was like who?
Exactly. But later in the interview, because this was during like a live press conference at Bears
That's
camp.
also really bold.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I guess when it's at Bears camp, I mean, you've got everybody Bears around you, but still.
Some of the other statements he made, this is talking about the Bears-Packers game last year at Lambeau. We went up there and we played a pretty good game. I mean, if losing by 17 points is classified
as a pretty good game for a while until they got their asses handed to them in the second half. It was close for a bit, I think, right?
They got their asses handed to them in the first half. They were down 14 at the half.
Never mind.
It wasn't a good game, like at all.
I must have been thinking of the other. I feel like one of the two games was close for at least a little bit.
That was the game at Soldier Field, in which
makes sense.
The Bears, spoiler alert, also lost. They haven't beaten us in
I do remember that
5 seasons. Just so we're aware. And then when he was asked, so like, what is it about Packers fans that you find so obnoxious? This is
the stupidest quote I've ever heard.
Yes, it is. He's like, we're not even playing yet, and Packers fans are like, oh, go Green Bay, which like Packers fans.
I'm sorry. Are they not supposed to cheer for their team?
Exactly. And like the article on NFL.com basically said, like, if the accusation here is that Packers fans are obnoxious because they yell go team at any and all moments, well, then Jones must load the other 30 fan bases because that's fandom 101, which it is. Yeah. Sorry that he hates Packers fans that are indeed Packers fans. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, when it comes down to it, obviously I'm not here to like defend the Packers, but at the same time, I'm going to call out dumb statements when I see them, and it doesn't make any sense. It's just a guy that's clearly butthurt about, obviously them not having a lot of success against the Packers. And I mean, he's been around for what, a couple seasons now. So I mean, he's witnessed
season with the team.
Yeah, so he's witnessed a decent amount of it or whatever, but
I think never beaten Green Bay.
Yeah, I think he needs to, stay in his lane a little bit, calm down on, the butthurt comments, because when it comes down to it, when I heard about these comments, like I can kind of ever so kind of understand like the talking, jawing back and forth between franchises if you are like a significant part of the franchise. But as we stated earlier, who the heck is Justin Jones?
Well, we know who he is now, and he's going to get
quite a warm
welcome when they go to Lambeau to play us in week 1. That'll be a fun game.
I mean, a great way to open up the season. I actually think that's a really, really fun way to start the 2023 season.
Oh, I completely agree. And where the state of the rivalry is right now, it's a new era.
It's kind of murky.
At least for the Packers. I don't know if it's a new era for the Bears. That's to be determined.
It still kind of is, in my opinion. For the Bears, I don't think they've cemented themselves in any kind of
They haven't done anything
yet.
They haven't done anything. That's the thing.
That and the fact that I don't know if it's still really confirmed whether or not they're cemented in this current path for the team. Like with Justin Fields at the helm, with the other guys they're trying to like bring in. I don't know if anything feels really cemented of like, this is, we're building the future of Bears football right here. Like it seems like it could be the case given, some of the flashes that Justin Fields had last year and the way that the organization seems to feel about him. But to me, it still feels like we're kind of in like the couple year transition period of that new era as well. So, I mean, both teams are in similar versions of their own transition, but obviously for the Packers with a new quarterback at the helm for the first time in a heck of a long time, it's pretty different for you guys.
Yeah, my thing is when I look at the rivalry, especially in this offseason, it's been a lot of Bears fans doing a lot of talking because
for sure
the boogeyman is gone. Now they feel they have a chance.
We gotta have something.
So they're gonna talk their talk. And Packers fans, for the most part, I haven't heard any bombshells about the Bears back in return from any major Packer personality or personnel. So
well, I think in general the Bears fans are elated to have any kind of chance, or so it feels, compared to before. And the Packers fans are kind of, they're waiting and riding the wave to see whether or not they have something to talk back with until they see what this team is going to look like. They've been a bit more reserved about, because as well as the fact that Packers fans in general are still kind of going through the mourning period, I guess.
I don't even know if it's that. Like, I'm ready to see what we have in Jordan Love.
Well, yeah, for sure.
And that's going to be like one of the big questions. And
yeah,
how like another big question on my mind right now is how much are these chicken tendies that I just ate for dinner going to be fighting back on me?
He's going through it right now.
I'm going through it right now. If you can't tell,
he's got the chicken sweats.
I got the chicken sweat. Well, I had way too many good chicken tendies for dinner. Compliments to the chef, but I had a lot of food, and I'm gonna be sweating through this whole episode. Kind of like we're
power through, push through, be a professional.
Thanks, Tim. What? Now that this is like a formal podcast, I can't talk about stuff that's going on in my life.
No, you just can't succumb to the chicken sweats.
Oh, don't worry. We're gonna power through this. But if I look a little like
not little great. Beet red.
Oh boy. Yeah, I can finally like not act like I'm going through it with my stomach. So
no, but
where were we mentioning Packers Bears rivalry?
You were talking about Jordan Love specifically, and especially heading into like this week 1 game. I think talk about what a game to start the season for him at quarterback.
Yeah.
In Lambeau, like that is going to be a crazy environment. I think anybody who has a chance to go to that game would be very, very lucky, because that's, like you said, it's a new era of.
I think the Bears are going to be
rivalry.
very, very lucky because it's not going to be cold yet. They don't
have
to brave the elements of the frozen tundra. They get spared, unlike the Rams, who were complaining about having to play in Lambeau in December for like the 4th straight year.
That's what they get from being from warm, sunny California. When you travel, it's not going to be
shut up and deal with it.
You're not going to have nice little heated indoor stadiums everywhere you go that's not 75 degrees and sunny. Same way that all the teams that are used to playing in a lot of the cold aren't going to get, a nice little air-conditioned stadium when they go down to Miami on the opposing sideline and getting beat down by 110-degree heat on the turf. Like, conditions are conditions. But
so the Bears avoid the tundra. They get a new quarterback where Packers fans don't really know what to expect. Neither do Bears fans, so they're going to be like, "Oh, this is my chance. I'm gonna talk my talk." But then again, the Bears don't really know what they have at quarterback either.
No, and I think in general, I would say both teams don't really know what they have on the offensive side of the ball in general, because the Packers also still have the pretty decent question with the wide receiver core. The only thing that's really still, set in stone and that's been there is the running back duo between Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. For the Bears, we have a lot of questions at running back too, but overall it's going to be very interesting to see how those two offenses come out in week 1, because it's going to be new looks kind of across the board.
It's going to be rough. That's what I'm going to say right now on both sides. because
I can't
they're
imagine
gonna
that
want
game is going to be like an offensive shootout.
they're gonna want to come out firing on both sides. And with this new look Packers offense, like I'm gonna rattle off some names: Jordan Love, AJ Dillon, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Samari Toure, Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. These are significant skill positions on the Packers offense that are all 25 years old or younger.
Yeah.
So there will be some growing pains. I'm not going to expect a well-oiled machine right away like the Kansas City
Yeah,
Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, where you're going boom, 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 score, score, touchdown,
for sure.
touchdown. I'm expecting it to be a little rough, but I think they're going to pony up and get the job done. Where with the Packers, where I have my questions is the defense,
Oh
because
yeah.
the old adage was you don't get Rodgers any help in the first round, and you don't get Jordan Love any help in the first round. Well, where do you spend it? You spend it on defense. So you have Joe Barry and this defense with a bunch of first round picks at every single
Yeah.
level, literally everywhere. So what are you going to do with it? It better be good.
Yeah.
And I
The
think that's
question
where
is
the
like,
most
how many of those will pan
pressure,
out?
that's where the most pressure is on the Packers. It's not on Jordan Love. It's on this defense to be good
Yeah.
and pick up the
Well, yeah,
slack when
because
Jordan Love isn't doing well.
exactly. What it comes down to is picking up the slack. When you have a young quarterback, when you have an unexperienced group that's still trying to, figure themselves out as a whole, you need to fall back on the guys with experience. And that defense is where you have pretty much all that experience on your team with, the linebackers that you have that have been around. You got guys like Jair Alexander who hold down your corners. And I know you guys have
Don't try him.
you at least have a couple of Georgia defenders on the team, don't you? You may
We
not be the
do.
Eagles, but you got a couple.
We do. We have Quay Walker at linebacker, Devontae Wyatt at defensive
Eric
tackle. We have Eric
Stokes?
Stokes at cornerback, who should be recovering from a torn ACL. So that
Mm,
cornerback tandem is going to be Jair, Rasul Douglas, and Eric Stokes. But I think you can go on the other side and like, what are the Bears acquisitions going to be made of on defense? Because you add guys like Tremaine Edmonds and
yeah. They
TJ
did make some
Edwards.
significant moves where it's like, okay, especially with losing Roquan and trying to, fill some of those holes
That
in
could have
that
been totally
linebacking
preventable.
core.
That could have been totally
Yeah.
preventable. I don't know why.
Um, I don't know, man.
I mean, you could have just paid him the $20 million a year for the next 5 years that he's worth, and you could have had him long term. And like,
And then you have a permanent solution. You have a guy you can
and you
trust, and
don't need to go get
you
Tremaine
don't have
Edmonds
to
in
go
free
out.
agency.
Exactly. You don't have to go out and pay guys that are at least I would call unproven within your organization. I mean, those guys have had pretty significant success elsewhere, but I
Of
mean, obviously
course,
none of them are on the level of Roquan. But one of the things you mentioned was some like the injury side of things for guys on the Packers defense. One thing about the Packers that I would like to see, and obviously I don't have much love for much of the Packers, but I actually do really I'm a bit of a fan of Romeo Dobbs. I'd love to see him stay healthy because he was kind of on and off with injuries last year. And I actually do think he's a pretty talented receiver. So I'm interested to see if whether or not, like, what can he put together with, obviously first season of Jordan Love, but also if he's able to put together a full healthy season.
yeah,
Because I think he's got some pretty significant talent there and he can form into what I would believe to be a pretty solid wide receiver two. I would imagine Christian Watson's going to be your
that's
pretty
fine by
set wide
me.
receiver one now.
It's absolutely
Um,
fine.
but
And
yeah, no,
and
I do like him, so I would like to see him
we're just
succeed. And
young.
yeah,
Young
no,
doesn't
it's a lot
mean
of young guys.
bad. Like the talent is
Yeah,
there. I look around Green Bay's roster and I know what a lot of Chicago fans are barking about is like, oh, you guys are gonna suck now. Says who? There's talent everywhere.
but once again, I mean,
The only
look
thing
at
is
the
we don't know. So you can
yes,
say pretty much whatever you want and it can go unchecked.
yeah.
And
Well, welcome to the Broncos. The Broncos were the same type of thing where it's like you've got
Mhm.
talent in a lot of places, and you should have or could have been very good, but you also can do exactly what happened to them and just fall completely flat trying to figure these
And
things
that's
out.
a
So
very
it's
real
like
possibility. I'm going to
it could
acknowledge that
go
right
both
now. It could
ways.
go either way. The range from ceiling to floor for Green Bay this upcoming season, and like, we're not doing a preview yet. We'll get into a
Yeah.
preview later. That's definitely going to be something down the line as like preseason comes around. We're going to be previewing all 32 NFL teams. But at
Heck
least for
yeah.
the Packers, my expectations right now going into these mandatory OTAs is like the floor. Like we could win 5 games. We could also win 10 games. I feel like
Yeah.
any one of those in between is the realm of possibility. And with the
Yeah.
Bears, I think you could squeak out 8, 9 wins at the ceiling, but I think there's a very distinct possibility that says you win 5 to 6 too.
Oh,
So
100%. Because there's too much unproven. There's too much, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that the big question is, what difference does DJ Moore make in that passing game? Because the passing game is what needs desperate help. And it's not like the running game was that fantastic, especially, you lose David Montgomery. You bring in guys like what's his name for the Panthers? Yes, Donta Foreman. And then he's not even set to be the starter. I believe Khalil Herbert is going to be Khalil Herbert.
You brought in Donta Foreman to be like a change of pace kind of guy, because with Donta Foreman's age, he can't really handle.
No, he's not too much
the
of a
bulk
workhorse,
of the carries.
Although I will say there were a couple of games throughout the season for the Panthers where he did have a pretty heavy workload carry wise, like 20 plus at least.
Well, that's why he got another contract in the NFL, because he proved to be a semi-serviceable running back. But to circle back to the beginning point of like the Bears organization and Bears fans in general talking, I think it's a little bit preemptive. I understand after being like thrown in the dirt for the last 30 years that, you feel you finally have a chance. So we're going to talk the talk a little bit before it all goes horribly
I think it's
wrong.
Just too soon. It's too soon.
It's far too soon. So the state of the rivalry.
I mean, here's the thing. You know me in the fact that I'm a very real and not necessarily pessimistic fan.
Passive.
But I'm much more realistic. Yeah, I don't like talking a lot of smack when things
not
aren't going particularly
as much as
well.
I do, because I'll talk my talk about my teams. And like, for any of those people who know me personally outside of the platform of this podcast, if you talk to me face to face, I'm going to tell you that the Green Bay Packers are a playoff team, and I'm going to give you reasons X, Y, and Z. You can call me crazy, and I'll go, nope, playoff team. It doesn't matter.
Outside of the podcast, you're still a fan, no matter like. Down to the
hard.
Core. When we hop on here, we're a bit more of the realistic objective analyst type side of things. Yes, we're more objective, where we take sort of the facts for as they are, and we insert our own opinions and bias into them. But
the Flames are going to be stoked when the season comes around.
For sure.
I will have,
because it'll be exciting. It'll be a really exciting time.
I will let loose when the season comes around, but it's not that time. The state of the rivalry is in a pretty precarious spot. So what's going to happen?
Who knows?
Exactly. But we have lots more to talk about. The next thing we're going to get into is some top free agents that have been recently available on the market, namely DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook. Starting with DeAndre Hopkins, he was completely cut, just released straight up from the Arizona Cardinals, which I thought was
couldn't find a trade partner, I think.
Exactly. So, it's kind of like playing chicken of like, we're actively shopping you, but since we can't find any partners and teams just know it'll be better to give them a free agent contract, they just completely cut him. But there hasn't been much of a market so far, and DeAndre Hopkins hasn't really been in any rush. Like, same thing with Dalvin Cook. Neither one of these two free agents are in any rush to sign anywhere. In terms of like numbers, what DeAndre
I think at
Hopkins
the end of the day, they know they're both going to get signed somewhere anyway, so they're not worried about, oh gosh, find whoever is going to give me a contract and sign. They're trying to see what options are available.
Yeah, they like kind of estimated around like an Odell Beckham type deal, which is around like $15 million or more in average annual value. How many years that is, we're not sure, because like there's been a divide across the league over what DeAndre Hopkins still has left in the tank as a wide receiver. Like, some people are like, there's nothing left. They don't have any gas left in the tank. And there are some people's like, oh, he's still one of the best receivers in the league. And as far as teams that have met with him,
fall somewhere in between on that opinion, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, like the Titans so far have been the only team to offer him a contract. We don't know what that contract is.
Yeah, but undisclosed still, but
he's met with New England, which has been a popular destination with, Bill Belichick and Mac Jones and
Smack Jones.
Yeah, some other options he could potentially go to is with Mahomes and the Chiefs, Josh Allen and the Bills. You could go to the Ravens to bolster that receiving room for Lamar Jackson. He's talked about wanting to play with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. So it's definitely there. As far as like where he could go, I don't really know. And I still lean Kansas City, if I'm being completely honest, because that'll give DeAndre Hopkins the best opportunity to be a feature wide receiver with the best QB
with an incredibly
in the NFL.
Talented offense. Yeah.
And now you go in a situation where you could potentially go win a Super Bowl, as the Chiefs will definitely be trying to go back to back.
Yeah, because obviously, I mean, we've heard about the Titans and the
Mm-hmm.
Patriots thus far, and I'm sure as the summer continues to go on, we will hear about more. More teams will at least talk to him and whatnot. But in my mind, it doesn't really make sense for him to sign anywhere other than a contender. He's not in a prove it stage anymore. He clearly just wants to win. I think it would make sense for him to try to put himself in a situation like, for instance, the Chiefs, where you're at a team that just won the Super Bowl, but also is kind of in desperate need for a still solid number one receiver, because obviously they were able to do it without a real flashy number one.
Yeah.
And for DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think he is going to be the 120 150 yards a game at certain games type receiver, but I think he is
He doesn't
still a
need to be.
contested catch machine, and
Mm-hmm.
especially in that offense with the schemes that Andy Reid has, I think it would be a perfect fit of utilizing his skill set and the fact that he is, getting older and he doesn't necessarily have the spark that he once did at some point, but his hands are still very good and he's still a very talented football mind and player. So I imagine he will end up signing with some type of contender. The Chiefs still makes the most sense, but it's a matter of, how much does he care about money? What teams actually offer him a contract? I think the Chiefs would be stupid not to offer him a contract, but I mean, you never know what these teams are actually going to decide. It's kind of all speculation on what we think makes sense.
Absolutely. And with the Chiefs and being a number one wide receiver, he has the opportunity to be, but does he need to be? No, because you have other
No,
guys like
you still
Travis
have Travis
Kelce
Kelsey.
and
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney. I think Kadarius Toney, when it's all said and done, will take the reins as the number one. You still have
I would
Marcus
like to
Valdez
see him.
Scantling.
I would like to see Kadarius Toney get a lot more situated and be a kind of like consistent staple in that offense.
But
He's kind of
he
just like
was
come and
such an
gone during his time
impact
there.
player, like
Yeah,
especially in the Super Bowl and in the
yeah.
playoff run,
That's
like
why
where
I
he
want
stepped
them to
up in
try to
key
incorporate him
moments.
more. Yeah.
Exactly. So on the other side, you have Dalvin Cook, who was released from the Minnesota Vikings. And this is a little bit more of an interesting situation because although I don't have
Aging
like,
running backs are
yeah, I
it's
don't
thin
have
ice with
nearly
them.
as much faith that Dalvin Cook can produce like he once did as DeAndre Hopkins.
I don't think he can produce what he once did, but I still think he's better than quite a few running backs out there to where he can still be serviceable for a team.
And that's where I kind of disagree. I don't think he's going to be a lead back anywhere. I think he's going to
So where do
be
you so
that
where do you think he
slower
signs?
change of pace. The most common
If you think he's signing as
destinations,
an RB2,
the most common destinations that I've heard, first of all, Miami, where he can go back home
yeah,
to Florida, and
yeah,
that will
there's been a
give
lot of talk about Miami.
because what Dalvin Cook is and what Dalvin Cook like should be are like two completely different things because the speed, the explosiveness, the cuts, the break, it's not there. After
Yeah,
1,500 touches in the NFL and 280 or more in the last 4 seasons, I think 300 or more in 3 of those 4, there's too much tread on the tires. And at 28 years old, he's not a running back one in this league anymore, but he's going to want to be a feature back because he said, I want somebody who wants Dalvin Cook. And
yeah.
even though Mike McDaniel has kind of like been against it for the most part, I don't think he's completely ruled it out. Miami makes the most
I also
sense.
don't know how much he's like, I would say,
Goofing
truly
around.
revealing in his conversations. Like
Mike McDaniel's a
he,
goofy dude.
he's a goofy dude, but he's also a savvy enough dude where he knows kind of how to play around questions and not be. You see a
I
lot of
mean,
NFL head coaches there that kind of just
yeah,
they don't
they're
have
media
so much
trained.
emotion. Yeah, where he's just kind of like, I mean, he'll goof around and joke about things, but I mean, it's very possible that I think he still would probably
Mike
like.
McDaniel is a very goofy dude, and
Yeah,
football's fun in South Beach, dude. That's all there
yeah,
is
for
to say
sure.
about it. Another destination could be the Broncos because with Javonte Williams coming
That would
back,
be a solid tandem. God, I
I,
hope he can stay healthy.
Dalvin Cook would give a solid contingency plan, and if they really wanted to use RB by committee, you can slowly reincorporate Javonte Williams into the offense and give Dalvin Cook those touches as an experienced
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, no, I agree. That would not be a bad situation as well. Now for me personally, I really like Javonte Williams. So in my mind, as a fan of a player, do I want Dalvin Cook to, take away from his touches? Not really. I would love to see Javonte Williams essentially
But I think
go
that's just from
do
a
everything
fantasy
that he
football
can.
aspect.
Kind of. That is kind of where my mind is coming from.
You think about it as a fantasy football manager.
Yes,
We will
absolutely.
talk lots of fantasy football as the season comes along because
Yeah.
something that I do want to talk about in the future is the league that you have invited me to, because that is such an
Yes.
interesting league and I can't
It's
wait.
going to be a blast, and it'll be fun to talk about it a bit on here and sort of talk about some of those
to not only
analysis points,
participate in it, but like talk fantasy football in the future. But back to the point with Javonte Williams with the torn ACL and I believe also an MCL,
it would be
he's
good
gonna
for him to be
some
able
time.
to work back in. Yeah. And it would be a pretty decent option for them of, signing a guy at relatively small contract, but still has a lot of
1,000%.
that experience. And as well as the fact that obviously Javonte Williams could learn a thing or two from him, because obviously he's been around the league for quite a bit and he's had quite a bit of success. So it'd be a good guy to mentor him about, the world of running backs in the NFL as well. So those are two pretty sensible options. There's probably other, teams that
There's
will
a few
be interested
others.
and
like I've heard the
potentially make
Saints
some
floated around with like the Alvin Kamara situation. I've heard the Raiders as a potential Josh Jacobs replacement. I don't think either one of those carry as much weight.
Yeah.
Let's talk numbers a bit. The potential price would be like $4 to $6 million on a shorter term deal.
Yeah.
Dalvin may want more. Is he going to get
given
more?
given the way that he's
I don't
talking,
know.
it kind of sounds like he probably wants a little bit more, but I think he's going to have to come down to earth a little bit and realize where his stock is as a player.
It's not high. It's not that high.
And once again, it's not even that much about him specifically as a player. Although, as you said, there's, the stats to prove it. As much as it is, you just look at aging running backs in the NFL on average, and the statistics don't work in his favor. So despite how good he thinks or how good he thinks he feels,
I had an idea pop in my head. You know what's better than one aging running back on a team?
Oh gosh,
two aging running backs on the team. Let's let the Titans sign him and pair him with Derrick Henry.
Oh gosh. To be fair though, that would be
idea.
That would be a very weird running back tandem. But it wouldn't be bad because Derrick Henry still is playing very, very well for the most part.
Whatever you have left out of Dalvin Cook and whatever you have left out of Derrick Henry before it completely goes splat against the wall.
I mean, because hear me out. Like, as far as I'm aware, Dalvin Cook is I would say a pretty significantly better pass catcher than Derrick Henry is, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, you could utilize him a little bit more in the pass catching game out of the backfield and let Derrick Henry handle a lot more in between the tackles.
If you really want to lean heavier on that run game, because in Tennessee you don't quite know what you have at quarterback.
Who gonna pass the ball?
With Tannehill, Malik Willis, and Will Levis. Like, football is going to be fun in Tennessee, dude. That's all I'm going to say about that.
They're going to need to start lining up Will Levis at in the
my god, if they use him as a gadget. Will Levis is not a gadget guy. I mean, he's not a very good quarterback, but like not quite a gadget guy either.
The Titans are in a weird stage because I don't want to get into them too much, but they kind of have two drafted quarterbacks
talk about
that
them later.
No idea what they'll turn into
in the future. But for now, we're going to move on and talk about the drama with the bickering Buffalo Bills. So with the Buffalo Bills, there was a little bit of concern with the no-showing of Stefon Diggs sitting out training camp. And typically you'd want to address this in-house, but Josh Allen actually spoke to the media about it.
Different route than usual. And I was kind of surprised by that.
That was
most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time you try to stay as quiet about that as possible because you don't really want to reveal about whatever, shortcomings or arguments or disagreements that you have within your organization. But he was open about it. And I mean, to be fair, props to him about being transparent about it. It's, it opens, the side of the conversation to Diggs of saying, hey, if they were or weren't, in conversation or active conversation at that point about it. He essentially put it out there like, hey, obviously I have my own shortcomings too. I love the guy. Like I want us to succeed, and I want him to, be happy with his position in the Bills organization. But it does pose an interesting question, because I know you could definitely see in some of like the postseason last year and where they struggled, where you could see Diggs was very visible in his frustration. I'm not sure if that was more apparent in different parts of the season. But where does that necessarily put them coming into the year, regardless of whether or not he's, coming back to training camps and playing and whatnot? Where does that relationship with not only the two of them, but with the organization stand?
It's going to be interesting to see how they involve Stefon Diggs more going forward. And I will say, like, Josh Allen, he's like, oh, I friggin' love the guy, although it's really weird to read the word frigging written out in the ESPN article.
I friggin' love the guy.
I mean, that's what he said. I mean,
that's a Josh Allen type of answer.
Yeah. That and his various heinous tweets from like 13 years ago, but we
don't talk about those very much.
We don't talk about those.
You want to talk about hate? You want to talk about heinous? Look at all the posts of the Bills' social media.
Oh dear,
their social media team is insane. And to be fair, Josh Allen has joined in on it for quite a bit recently, which has been pretty hilarious too.
Yeah, the Bills' social media.
I'm glad he's a good sport about it.
Is a different beast.
It's a fever dream.
It absolutely is. But I mean, Allen said it himself, nothing that the Bills accomplish like gets done without Stefon Diggs. And
100%.
Granted, Stefon Diggs is back now, and today they kind of like underplayed it, and they're just like, oh, it's fine, I'm not worried about it, it's gonna get resolved. But like, it was a very
it's kind of their job to downplay it though.
Up. Yeah, like it was weird, like it was a quick like 3-day beef, if you even want to call it that. It was like, what's wrong with Stefon Diggs? And Stefon Diggs was being like really cryptic on Twitter, which is like, yeah, totally Stefon Diggs of him to do. Like that's normal anyway. But
he went to the Kyler Murray school of being cryptic on social media.
I think Kyler Murray goes to the Stefon Diggs school of being cryptic on social media. Stefon Diggs does this all the time.
He's been doing it for longer, so it'd be the other way around.
It's the Stefon Diggs school of complaining about not getting the ball in the playoffs. But you have to imagine that that's part of it, like coming up short.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Postseason after postseason after postseason, because the Bills, like year after year after year,
the expectations for them are always high, and they have seemingly always come short year in and year out.
See, I'm not gonna say I'm surprised though with the Bills coming up short, because if you want to go back to our AFC East predictions, and like overview, I remember saying that they would come up just short. I also remember saying that the Denver Broncos will be better than the Buffalo Bills, which aged like
there was bread. A lot of stuff that we said about the Broncos that aged.
I'm gonna own.
Then again, so did everybody.
We're not alone
on that course.
I'll own up to that and all of my bad takes if you really want to call me out on them. But I will take a victory lap on Buffalo coming up short in the playoffs, because that is very much what happened.
Yeah, they just have had a lot of pieces that haven't necessarily come together at the right time, and at that time, right then and there, it really seemed to be their defense that just wasn't able to do enough, which used to be in relatively recent memory too, used to be their biggest strength. And obviously big part of that was losing Von Miller, and you saw the statistical difference of how that defense performed with and without that added pass rush. So they'll be looking to make a lot of changes. But once again, coming back to the whole Diggs thing, they need Diggs to make that happen. He is that talented of a receiver, and the combination of him and guys like Gabe Davis, and I mean, you still have Dawson Knox, but you also bring in
Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah,
Dalton Kincaid late in the first round.
Dalton Kincaid. So
Dalton Kincaid was the first round pick.
Here's got a lot of offensive weapons.
What we don't realize with Stefon Diggs and how talented he is, he makes Gabe Davis look like a decent receiver. Because if there's one thing that we learned, Gabe Davis isn't that good. He's really not. And so when
Yeah,
you
he
have
he
Stefon
shows a
Diggs that
lot
you
of
have to worry
flashes.
about, and he also shows a lot of not great flashes too.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's beside the point. This little bickering Bills beef that
It will be interesting to see where this goes. Like, will we
mm-hmm,
see anything more from it, or will it just be sort of this couple day thing where it's like,
mm-hmm.
hey, they kind of talked about some stuff, and it just dissolved, and they're back to playing football and getting ready for the season. It's hard to tell.
This next piece of news that we're going to talk about is a little bit older, but still something that's very relevant as we get into these training camps. It's with the Raiders and Jimmy Garoppolo and how that ankle may affect the team going forward.
They're
In
in a
the
weird spot.
Yeah, in the offseason, Jimmy Garoppolo signed a 3-year, $72.75 million deal with a condition that included a waiver slash release concerning that left foot that he hurt last year and had subsequent surgery on. He needed to pass a physical and be on the field in order to earn the money. And what that waiver and release does, if Jimmy G doesn't pass the physical, he can be cut and the Raiders wouldn't have to pay a
Yeah,
dime.
anything.
If well,
But that then
they just
also
need to
puts them in a
cite,
really weird position for the quarterback position.
of course it does. They just need to cite the ankle as like the reason for the release and they don't have to pay a dime. But like you
Yeah.
just said, that would leave them in a really weird spot. And I think the first question that we
Cam
have to,
Newton.
oh dear God, Tim, don't put that. Cam Newton thinks there are 32 quarterbacks that aren't better than Cam Newton, but Cam Newton lives in his fantasy world.
Cam Newton is he lives on a different plane of
Why did you
existence
bring that name into existence?
because he's
Why'd
a
you do
funny
that?
free agent quarterback that would be hilarious in the silver and black.
You're darn right about that. But I think the first question we have to ask is Jimmy G even going to play? And as of right now, there's no
It's
timetable on it.
uh,
He's not
it's kind of
ready
looking like
yet.
probably not, which would be really really interesting and
Yeah, but the Raiders won't tell you that. Uh,
no, obviously
Josh
not.
McDaniels and the rest of the Raiders are fairly confident that he'd suit up.
Yeah,
To
fairly confident.
quote the late great Alec Manoa, pressure is something that you put in your tires. Pressure for Jimmy G to be no, there. If you ask the Raiders, no.
No.
But if we want to use the Alec Manoa as any comparison, right now he's in the Florida Complex League in rookie ball trying to figure his stuff out. So
Yeah, so I don't know what pressure he's feeling. He may just be chilling down there, but he's an interesting
yeah,
one
have
to
a
talk.
2 week break. But with the Raiders, let's just say it doesn't work out. What are the options? Tim, I'll let you go through some because it'll be funny.
Yeah, in my mind, I mean, I think there are some free agent quarterbacks that are probably more likely for them to sign than for them to go with what they have on their roster. Because on their roster, you've got 38-year-old Brian Hoyer, who has
Woohoo!
now traveled to his, I don't know, sixth, seventh, eighth team now. I can't remember how many he's been on, but it's been a couple at least now. You've got my Purdue alum Aiden O'Connell, who was just
AOC.
drafted as a rookie this upcoming year in the fourth round. You've got Chase Garbers, who's an undrafted free agent.
Yep, they
Um,
brought him in.
yeah. So, I mean, if it would be the most Raiders thing
But
to be like,
we need
we're
to talk
moving on
about
from,
we need to talk about the goat in the room.
yes, the goat in the front office.
As a minority owner. Here's the weird thing about Tom Brady. He did buy a minority stake in the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's a part owner of the Las Vegas Aces, who Mark Davis also owns in conjunction with the Raiders. The interesting thing about his situation, it's like there are rules in place that owners cannot play. We're not going to see a Jackie Moon type situation. Although it will be really interesting. I just want to put this out there right now. If Tom Brady plays for the Raiders QB room will be the 2014 Patriots plus Aiden O'Connell.
I'll say no.
with Brady, Garoppolo, and
It's not
Hoyer.
happening. If I was a betting man, it's not happening. Because didn't we already hear about something about the fact that Tom Brady submitted his, something to the Pro Football Hall of Fame to make him, eligible in so many years, which means he can't go back on his retirement decision?
Oh,
I thought I
I'm
saw
pretty sure
about
you
that
can go
somewhere.
back on your retirement decision at any time. I think the ticker just
I
starts
guess
over. So
it's
although
not
like,
happening though.
yeah, no, but God damn it, Tim,
It'd
can it
be
just be
funny if
fun
it
to
was, but
speculate,
no,
please? Can we just like talk
nope.
about it for a
I'm too
minute?
realistic. Nope.
Why? Tom Brady playing for the Raiders 2 decades and change after the Tuck rule would be so funny.
It would be very funny, yes.
But like, okay,
But you know what
legally
also would be
speaking,
absolutely hilarious though?
huh?
It would be such a Raiders thing to be like, we're moving on from Derek Carr because we didn't have enough, success and we can do better. And then they start the season with Brian Hoyer. That would be
AOC season,
such
baby.
a Raiders thing to do. I mean, I would love to see AOC get a shot. I don't think they'll start the season with a fourth round rookie quarterback. I think they want to give themselves a
The
bit more
rookie
of a
starters
chance
around the
at
league.
success.
Rookie starters
Yeah.
around the league. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Aiden O'Connell.
I mean, it'd be fantastic. It'd be
One
a
of those
fantastic
QBs are
story,
not like the
but
others.
I don't see it happening. I think if Aiden O'Connell gets a shot at some point, it'd be due to injuries, which is
Well,
always a
that's
possibility.
why
But
we're talking about this right now,
yes,
Tim. It's because of an
I more mean
injury
like an
on the
in-game injury
field.
where they
I
don't
get it.
have the ability to, sign somebody and incorporate them. Right now, they're in a position where they can bring
Mhm.
somebody else in and incorporate them into the offense well before the season starts.
Hey, man, if Carson Wentz doesn't sign with the Buccaneers, maybe the Raiders?
Yeah, and that is a decent possibility because he is a name that I think not many people have really been mentioning in terms of free agent quarterbacks just because of the fact of the way he's struggled recently.
Maybe his
Um,
fourth team in
yes,
as many
in
years.
as many years. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
But it's
God.
certainly still a possibility for him because once again, there are the flashes. He's still, young enough to have like a lot of, football left to give in terms of a transition period, I would guess. But they wouldn't be signing him as obviously a long-term option. They'd be signing him to try to give themselves some chance to win games. But in that case, then
I'm gonna keep shaking
wouldn't
my
you?
head because
No,
no,
but in that case,
no.
then I'm saying like, but in that case, if they don't have Jimmy Garoppolo and they don't have a lot of
They
good
could
options
trade for
there,
Sam Darnold.
yes, you could. Or, I mean, what's stopping you from taking? I mean, obviously, your fan base wouldn't really want to see it. You don't want to waste a year of Josh Jacobs, but what's stopping you from just trying to get another good draft pick? And
They
just
could very
running
much
with
do
whatever
that.
you guys got. You run with
They
Brian
could
Hoyer,
do that.
give Aiden O'Connell a shot at some point during the season just to see, hey, does this kid, have something to his game?
If you tank for Caleb
Because
Williams and Drake May and you find that Aiden O'Connell is the solution to all your problems, that would be the most Raiders thing ever.
that would be pretty true. Going from Derek Carr to dollar store Derek Carr. Because if you actually look at
Looks
him,
like
there's a
just like
lot of
Derek Carr.
similarities. He's really similar.
And he's wearing number 4 too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the we have Derek Carr at home. In comes Aiden O'Connell.
Mommy, I miss Derek Carr. We have Derek Carr at home, silly. Oh
Just
boy.
throw a number 4 jersey on him. No, but I love Aiden O'Connell's a great guy. I would love to see him get a shot. I don't know how realistic that is, but I think a lot of it depends on the way the summer goes, what they see in terms of free agent options, or like you said, on the trade block for somebody like a Sam Darnold. But
Maybe they should
I
throw a
think it would
sixth
be.
round pick to the Packers for Sean Clifford.
I mean, boy, you could, but I don't think Sean Clifford is
No.
much of a better option to start than Aiden O'Connell.
What? Do you want another 25-year-old Big Ten rookie?
Exactly.
Sean
At
Clifford and
least,
Aiden O'Connell are your guys.
no kidding.
But that's all we got for this episode of Running the Table. we've been pumping out a lot of content lately, and we're going
This
to
is fun.
keep the
I like
train
this. I
coming.
like this style. I think it's a really fun way for us to swing. We're doing a lot more, just general open-ended stuff, and we're very open to anyone, coming to us either, personally, if you know us personally, or on the channel with content ideas. There's even a little ability on Spotify or listening on Spotify for us to get some
A little
feedback on.
Q&A. Little
Yeah,
Q&A.
types of content.
What do you want
Types
us
of
to talk about
content,
next?
yeah, what sports you want to hear about. We are very open to hearing about what you guys want us to talk about. So let us know.
Absolutely. This has been a blast. If you haven't seen our other episodes, go do that. We are available on YouTube, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms. So
You
until
betcha.
next time, we out.